Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Your shortcut to truly understanding complex topics.
Glad to be diving in.
Today we're plunging into a singular chapter that tells, well, a monumental story.
Yeah.
1 Kings chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just some ancient blueprint. It's really a foundational narrative about the construction of Solomon's temple.
That's right.
A structure that symbolized, well, far more than just its exquisite stone and gold.
Precisely. Our mission today is to move beyond just seeing it as an architectural record.
Right.
We want to explore the deep theological, political, spiritual, and even, the profoundly personal implications of this pivotal moment in Israelite history.
Oh.
The sources we've meticulously compiled offer just a wealth of perspectives, and we're here to guide you through them, really ensuring you gain those truly distilled, sometimes surprising nuggets of knowledge that define being well-informed.
And what's so compelling is that beneath the surface of these ancient details, there are layers upon layers. From the meticulous physical construction of this, well, truly astonishing edifice, to the unseen spiritual interactions and the profound covenant between God and his people.
Absolutely.
What's truly surprising, I think, is how these echoes from the past resonate so powerfully with our modern lives, offering insights we might not expect from a text describing, well, an ancient building.
It really does bridge the gap in fascinating ways.
So to begin, let's maybe paint a picture of the backdrop for this grand undertaking.
Okay.
Imagine Israel, a nation undergoing a profound transformation.
Right. A real shift.
They've moved beyond their nomadic origins, wandering through the wilderness after Egyptian slavery, to a settled, unified, and increasingly powerful kingdom.
A major transition period.
So the construction of Solomon's temple wasn't just another building project. It was like the ultimate architectural declaration of this new era.
Absolutely. A statement piece.
It was destined to be the permanent house of the Lord, the singular hub of their national and spiritual identity.
And the timeline itself speaks volumes about this epic transition, doesn't it?
Yeah, tell us about that.
Solomon initiated construction in the month of Ziv, which is the second month, during the 4th year of his reign.
Okay, 4th year.
And this was a staggering 480 years after the Israelites were dramatically delivered from their slavery in Egypt.
Wow, 480 years. That's a long time.
It really is. That 480-year span highlights a long, often tumultuous journey, a period marked by immense struggle, the establishment of a monarchy, constant divine guidance.
Right.
All culminating in this monumental moment of national establishment and religious centralization. It really signified a coming of age for the nation.
And while the foundation was laid in his 4th year as king, the entire building wasn't completed until the 11th year of his reign.
That's correct. In the month of Bul, the 8th month.
So the actual construction of the temple structure itself took a remarkable 7 years.
7 years.
Just think about that for a moment. 7 years of continuous, dedicated work on one singular, unprecedented national project. This wasn't a quick build at all.
No, it truly emphasizes the scale and the significance Solomon placed on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the choice of location for such a sacred structure was, well, it was far from arbitrary.
Where exactly was it?
It was built in Jerusalem, specifically on Mount Moriah, a site already deeply steeped in Israel's sacred history.
Mount Moriah rings a bell.
Yes, this was the very ground where, centuries earlier, Abraham had intended to sacrifice his son Isaac.
Ah, right. That story.
An event that became a profound test of faith and a foundational moment in the covenant narrative. So this choice immediately connected the temple to the deepest narratives of faith, sacrifice, and God's covenant promises right from the very beginning of their national story.
That adds so much weight to the location. And the purpose.
Yeah.
It was more than just a place for the ark, right? It fulfilled David's dream.
Exactly. It directly fulfilled King David's fervent yet unrealized desire to build a permanent dwelling for God.
Because David couldn't build it himself.
Right. God himself had affirmed that desire, but promised it would be carried out by David's son, Solomon.
Okay.
So this permanent structure, made of stone and cedar, symbolized the permanence and establishment of the Davidic covenant itself. That unique, unconditional promise God made to King David.
Which was?
That his lineage would endure, his kingdom would be established forever, and that one of his descendants would ultimately build God's house.
So the temple building was a direct fulfillment of that promise.
Precisely. And by extension, it also signaled the stability and permanence of the entire Israelite kingdom. It was the ultimate expression of a people finally settled in their land and a faith deeply rooted in a physical, visible monument.
Now, moving to the construction process itself, this is where it gets kind of mind-blowing. One of the most astonishing details is the preparation of the materials.
Yes, highlighted across our sources. All the stones used were pre-finished, meticulously cut, dressed, and precisely fitted right there at the quarry.
At the quarry, not the building site.
Exactly.
And this leads to that almost paradoxical detail.
Yeah.
So that there was neither hammer nor axe, nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in building.
Mm-hmm.
Can you even imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
A massive construction site, 7 years of work, and absolute silence from the building itself.
It's almost unthinkable today, isn't it?
Yeah. You think something was wrong? It really highlights a completely different philosophy of work and reverence.
And the profound significance of this silence, well, it cannot be overstated. It really offers a truly insightful paradox.
How so?
It speaks directly to the holiness, the sacredness, and the deep reverence intended for this project. It really challenges our modern sensibilities.
Because we associate building with noise.
Exactly. We often equate progress with noise, hustle, constant visible activity.
Yeah.
Yet here was this monument to the divine built in absolute stillness.
It completely subverts that idea.
It does. It wasn't a noisy, chaotic endeavor, unlike the building of many pagan temples in the ancient Near East, which often involved, rituals of striking and clamor to awaken stones or appease deities.
Right.
Instead, it highlights God's serene, preordained process, a kind of divine blueprint unfolding in tranquil order.
So the silence itself had meaning.
Deep meaning. It suggests that God's most profound work is often accomplished without human clamor or interference, and that internal, unseen work often precedes public display and ultimate manifestation.
That's a powerful connection. It makes me reflect on, our own lives, the true work that happens behind the scenes in quiet discipline, self-reflection, patient shaping, long before anything is ready for public display.
The preparation phase.
It's like the cutting and fitting of our own stones in the quiet of our personal quarries before they're placed into the grand structure of our lives, our character, or our spiritual purpose.
A wonderful analogy.
It challenges us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is our loudest effort truly our most profound work? Or is there an unseen, unheard preparation that yields deeper, more lasting results?
A very pertinent question.
So we've unpacked the historical context and the sheer marvel of its silent construction. But behind every grand project are the individuals and forces that bring it to life. Who were the key players here, the architects of destiny?
Well, at the center of the human endeavor, undeniably, is King Solomon himself, the royal builder.
Yeah.
He is the central human figure in this narrative, the king of Israel, son of David. He was specifically tasked with overseeing and initiating this massive undertaking, directly fulfilling that divine promise made to his father.
So his main action here is building the temple.
His commitment to honoring God through the construction of the temple is the defining action of this chapter, yes.
And Solomon's reign is often called a golden age.
Yeah.
How did that peace and prosperity play into this? Could David have done it?
That's a crucial question. David, though, a man after God's own heart, was also fundamentally a man of war.
Constantly fighting
to establish Israel's borders, secure its future. And God explicitly told David he could not build the temple because he had shed too much blood. Ah, okay. So Solomon inherited a different situation.
Completely different. Solomon inherited a consolidated, peaceful, and prosperous kingdom. This allowed for a project of such immense scale and cost without the draining distractions of warfare.
And his wisdom played a role.
Absolutely. His famous wisdom, a divine gift, was evident not just in his judgments, but also in the meticulous, sophisticated execution of the temple's construction. It required incredible foresight and organizational skill. This was a time of national surplus, both in resources and manpower, something David never fully enjoyed.
So logistically, Solomon was more than just a king giving orders. He was like the CEO of this whole thing.
Absolutely. He organized a truly vast governmental infrastructure. We're talking complex systems for taxation, the conscription of thousands of Israelites for labor.
Thousands.
Yes,
Yeah.
large-scale quarrying of immense amounts of stone and extensive international trade. He forged crucial alliances, like with Hiram, the king of Tyre.
For invaluable resources like the famous cedars of Lebanon and cypress wood, along with skilled craftsmen.
Yeah.
This wasn't just building, it was an unparalleled exercise in national mobilization, diplomacy, and resource management on a scale Israel had never seen before.
So on one hand, this project becomes a symbol of national unity, devotion. But on the other, it clearly required immense resources and labor from the people. It's that kind of double-edged sword of grandeur, isn't it?
It is, and for Solomon, this project was undoubtedly the ultimate political statement of his reign.
How so?
By centralizing worship in Jerusalem and constructing such a magnificent structure, he consolidated his power, solidified the legitimacy of the Davidic monarchy, and firmly established Jerusalem as the undeniable political, economic, and religious capital of Israel.
So it projected power outwards, too.
Definitely. It projected Israel's power, prosperity, and divine favor to all surrounding nations, asserting its place on the world stage.
But while Solomon was the human protagonist, and his ambition was clearly a driving force, the true architect, the ultimate subject and central unseen character here, is the Lord himself, Yahweh.
Indeed. The divine architect and covenant keeper.
Right.
The temple was built for the name of the Lord, and significantly, during its construction, God speaks directly to Solomon.
Ah, that's a key moment.
It's a crucial and powerful unseen interaction detailed in 1 Kings 6.1-13. This divine revelation isn't just an affirmation, it comes with a very clear conditional promise, highlighting God's active involvement.
And that promise is absolutely key, isn't it? A central pillar.
It is. God says essentially, concerning this temple you are building, if you keep all my laws and regulations and obey all my commands, then I will fulfill through you the promise I made to your father David. I will live among the people of Israel and never forsake my people.
The if, then, is crucial.
Absolutely critical. This passage underscores a fundamental truth that transcends the physical structure. The physical grandeur of the temple was always secondary to covenant obedience.
So the building itself didn't guarantee God's presence.
Not at all. God's presence among his people was not automatically guaranteed by a magnificent building, no matter how opulent. Instead, it was always contingent upon Solomon's personal faithfulness and the people's collective obedience to the covenant.
So it wasn't like a magic charm.
Exactly. This temple was not a talisman or a good luck charm, ensuring God's presence regardless of their actions. Rather, it was a profound test of fidelity. It's a reminder that true worship isn't just about external forms, but about the heart of obedience and a righteous walk with God.
And finally, we have the people of Israel and Judah themselves, the collective laborers. Though not named individually, their role was immense.
Huge. Thousands of Israelites were conscripted for this massive building project, fulfilling their king's vision.
What did their participation mean for the nation as a whole?
Well, their participation was far more than just physical labor. It signified the nation's collective commitment to establishing a central, unifying place of worship.
And it legitimized Solomon's rule.
Yes, it further legitimized Solomon's reign in the eyes of the populace and surrounding kingdoms. It was a communal effort, a shared national purpose that reflected a period of unprecedented strength, unity, and devotion for the kingdom. The scale of this national mobilization alone would have fostered a deep sense of shared identity.
But we also have to acknowledge the other side of that coin, don't we?
We do.
While it was certainly a source of national pride and a unifying purpose, it also imposed significant burdens on the populace through that conscription and heavy taxation.
Yes, the human cost.
It reminds us that even grand, divinely inspired projects have human costs and implications, and that leaders, even wise ones like Solomon, must navigate these carefully.
And that very conscription, though sanctioned here, actually foreshadowed later complaints about the heavy yoke of Solomon's reign.
Ah, interesting.
It shows the potential for even good intentions to create hardship down the line.
Okay, now let's truly dive into the sheer grandeur of Solomon's temple itself. This wasn't just a building. You described it as a jewel.
It really was a dazzling masterpiece of ancient architecture, craftsmanship, and profound symbolism.
So what about the raw dimensions? What do they tell us about its scale and ambition?
Well, the meticulous details in 1 Kings 6 describe a structure designed to inspire awe. The main building itself was 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 45 feet high.
Okay, 90 by 30 by 45 feet.
Or in the original cubits, that's 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high.
How does that compare to other structures of the time?
Well, to put that in perspective, while maybe not as enormous as some Egyptian temples built for pagan deities, it was still a monumental undertaking for its time, especially considering the precision and the precious materials involved.
Right.
Imagine a building roughly half the length of a modern basketball court, but maybe triple the width of a typical house. Its true grandeur lay not just in its physical size, but in its unparalleled opulence and its sacred, exclusive purpose.
And it wasn't just a simple box, was it? There was a porch.
Yes, at the front, it boasted a magnificent porch or foyer that was 30 feet wide, spanning the entire width of the temple, and it projected outward 15 feet.
giving it a grand entrance.
A ceremonial space before entering the sacred interior, exactly.
And what about the side chambers?
Ah, yes. A complex of 3-story rooms was ingeniously built against the outer walls, wrapping around the sides and the rear of the main building.
How were they attached?
Ingeniously. They weren't simply tacked on, they were connected by cedar beams resting on ledges built out from the main temple wall.
So the beams didn't go into the main wall.
Correct, ensuring that no beams were inserted directly into the sacred, load-bearing walls of the temple itself. This detail speaks volumes about both structural ingenuity and the profound reverence for the main sanctuary's integrity.
Wow. What were the dimensions of those side rooms?
The bottom floor was 7.5 feet wide, the second 9 feet, and the top 10.5 feet, with each story approximately 7.5 feet high. And winding stairs led between the floors, allowing access to these numerous storage and administrative chambers.
And the roof?
Finished with beams and planks of cedar, a precious and fragrant wood.
Okay, that's the impressive external structure. But the interior, this is where it gets truly breathtaking, right? The paneling.
Yes, the entire inside, from floor to ceiling, was paneled with the finest cedar wood, known for its beauty, aroma, durability. And cypress was specifically used for the floors, providing a contrasting yet equally rich texture underfoot.
And it wasn't just plain wood paneling.
Oh no. This cedar paneling was intricately decorated, covered with elaborate carvings of gourds and open flowers, cherubim, and palm trees on all the interior walls.
So no stone was visible inside.
None of the raw stone of the main structure was left exposed. The entire interior was transformed into a continuous, ornate canvas of natural beauty and symbolic imagery, almost reminiscent of the Garden of Eden and the divine presence within.
So the carvings had meaning.
Deep meaning, yes. They weren't mere decoration. They imbued the space with spiritual significance. Cherubim, palm trees, symbols of paradise and divine presence.
But the real showstopper, the element that truly makes this more of a jewel than just a building, was the gold. The extensive gold overlay.
Dazzling beyond imagination.
Can you even begin to conceive the shimmering light just reflecting off every single surface?
It's hard to picture, really.
Ugh.
The inner sanctuary's walls and ceiling were overlaid with pure gold. The altar of cedar within the Holy of Holies was completely gold-plated.
Wow.
The rest of the temple's interior, the walls, the ceiling, the very floor, overlaid with pure gold. Gold chains protected the entrance to the most holy place.
Even the floor was gold.
Yes, the floor in both the inner sanctuary and the main room was overlaid with gold. Even the doors, folding doors of olive wood and cypress, were covered with finely hammered gold leaf. It must have been absolutely radiant.
A physical manifestation of divine glory.
An immense human devotion, yes. Truly spectacular, and a testament to the immense wealth and artistic skill of Solomon's era.
And then we come to the most sacred part, the inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies.
Yes, the most exclusive space. Its dimensions were perfect. A cube, 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 30 feet high, or 20 cubits in each dimension.
A perfect cube. Why a cube?
This perfect cube symbolized not only the completeness and perfection of God's presence, but also its utter uniqueness, separate and beyond human comprehension. Geometric perfection reflecting divine perfection.
And its sole purpose was to house the Ark of the Covenant.
Its primary purpose, yes. The most sacred artifact of Israel, containing the tablets of the Ten Commandments.
And inside this golden cube, the cherubim.
2 colossal cherubim carved from olive wood, each one 15 feet tall.
15 feet. Huge.
Huge! With a magnificent 15-foot wingspan, each wing measuring 7.5 feet. They were identical in shape and size, placed side by side so their outstretched wings reached from wall to wall, with their inner wings touching at the very center of the room.
Guardians of the space.
Exactly. And these mighty cherubim, too, were overlaid with gold, acting as awe-inspiring guardians of God's most holy presence, echoing the cherubim guarding the Garden of Eden.
And the entrance.
Guarded by double doors of olive wood with 5-sided doorposts, also elaborately decorated with carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and of course, overlaid with pure gold. Every detail reinforced the sanctity and exclusivity of this space.
Just incredible. And outside that, the main sanctuary.
Just outside the Holy of Holies was the main sanctuary area, known as the Holy Place. It was 60 feet long, or 40 cubits, right in front of the inner sanctuary.
Still lavishly decorated.
Absolutely. It, too, was adorned with impressive folding doors of cypress wood, with 4-sided olive wood doorposts, carved with the same symbolic imagery, cherubim, palm trees, open flowers, and lavishly overlaid with gold.
Any other features we should mention? Windows? Courts.
Yes, we should note the presence of narrow recessed windows throughout the temple,
Ah, yes, the windows.
which would have allowed some natural light to enter, complementing the internal illumination provided by the many lamps inside. And the inner court surrounding the temple also featured walls built with 3 layers of dressed stone, carefully cut and laid, topped with 1 layer of cedar beams.
Adding to the grandeur.
Adding to the overall sense of grandeur, meticulous detail, and functional beauty, this entire structure was an unparalleled act of worship, an architectural marvel, and a profound statement of faith and national identity. It was truly a monument to Yahweh.
As awe-inspiring as Solomon's temple was, and it truly sounds magnificent.
It was.
It wasn't the first dwelling place for God, nor was the final one, was it?
No, absolutely not. It's part of a fascinating progression, a kind of journey from the mobile tabernacle to the ultimate temple, which, interestingly, isn't a building at all.
Right, and this evolution offers profound insights into God's changing relationship with humanity.
Absolutely. The contrast between the tabernacle and Solomon's temple is particularly striking and instructive.
How so? What are the main differences?
Well, the tabernacle was fundamentally a portable tent shrine. It was specifically designed for Israel's nomadic wanderings through the wilderness and during their initial settlement in the land.
Representing God on the move with them.
Exactly. It represented God's journeying presence, his willingness to move with his people. The temple, on the other hand, was a permanent, fixed stone and wood building in the newly established capital, Jerusalem.
So the shift symbolized settlement.
Dramatically. It symbolized Israel's establishment and security in the Promised Land and God's settled, permanent presence among his now settled people.
And the scale was vastly different too, you mentioned.
Oh, considerably larger. The temple was roughly double the length and width of the tabernacle.
It was double.
Which gave it an astonishing 10 times more internal space.
10 times, wow.
This monumental expansion reflected the nation's immense prosperity, the stability of Solomon's reign, and, crucially, the greater glory and expanded worship that could now be offered to God during this golden age. It was a tangible sign of growth and blessing.
And the materials reflected that too, right? Not just acacia wood anymore.
Indeed. The materials themselves profoundly reflect this change in opulence and permanence. The tabernacle, while beautiful, used more readily available materials like acacia wood, fine linen, and bronze.
Stuff they could carry.
More or less. The temple, however, was constructed with massive, precisely cut stone prepared at the quarry, exquisite cedar and cypress wood, and was extensively overlaid with pure gold.
Indicating immense wealth.
Immense national wealth, sophisticated engineering, and unparalleled craftsmanship. It was a quantum leap in material value and perceived divine honor.
Even the Holy of Holies had differences.
Yeah.
Beyond the size.
Yes, subtle but significant. In the tabernacle, it was separated by a thick embroidered veil, a permeable barrier in a sense.
Right.
In the temple, it was separated by an ornate, decorative wooden door, and likely also a veil behind that. But notably, the temple's Holy of Holies was that perfect cube.
The geometric perfection again?
Exactly, emphasizing its completeness, its perfection, symbolic of God's complete and all-encompassing presence within that space.
And the furniture inside. More stuff in the temple.
Not just grander, multiplied. The tabernacle had 1 menorah, the lampstand, and 1 table for showbread.
Okay.
Solomon's temple featured 10 menorahs and 10 tables for showbread.
10 of each. Why so many?
Demonstrating an abundance of worship and offering, perhaps reflecting the 12 tribes more fully, or just the sheer scale of blessing. Beyond that, the temple boasted a much larger bronze altar for sacrifices, and that truly massive bronze sea for ceremonial washing.
Is sea.
A grand basin, far exceeding anything in the tabernacle. This multiplication signified the flourishing of the nation and the expanded, richer worship it could now offer to God.
You also mentioned the windows earlier, which is a subtle but interesting difference. No windows in the tabernacle, right?
Correct. The tabernacle's light came solely from the menorah and the direct manifest presence of God, the Shekinah glory.
But the temple had narrow recessed windows.
Yes, in addition to the 10 menorahs and God's promised presence.
What's the interpretation there?
Well, this is a point of fascinating interpretation among scholars. These windows, however narrow, might hint at a subtle shift or progression, perhaps suggesting a slightly less absolute reliance on divine supernatural light. Or maybe simply an allowance for more sources of light, both natural and man-made, reflecting an evolution in how God chose to dwell among his people, acknowledging their more settled, structured existence.
So not necessarily a bad thing.
Not necessarily a diminution of God's glory, perhaps just an adaptation to the new context of a permanent kingdom.
Which brings up that fascinating question for us listening today. What happens when we get more? More resources, more blessings, more visible grandeur. Do we handle blessings well? Or does receiving more, even from God, sometimes overwhelm us or maybe paradoxically lead to spiritual complacency?
A danger, certainly.
Causing us to rely less on the unseen source of those blessings. It's a profound thought as we see this progression.
That's an excellent point, and it leads us directly to the broader unfolding progression of God's dwelling places throughout biblical history. It's a narrative arc that moves towards increasing intimacy.
Where does it start?
Starting, arguably, in the Garden of Eden. God's presence was direct, unmediated with Adam and Eve. No man-made structure was needed. Perfect, unhindered communion.
Okay, Eden first. Yeah.
Then came the tabernacle, the first divinely designed dwelling place we discussed. Portable, temporary, representing God's journey with his people through their formative wilderness experience, a symbol of his faithfulness amidst their movement.
And then Solomon's temple.
Followed by Solomon's temple, the magnificent permanent dwelling in a settled land that we're exploring today, the pinnacle, in many ways, of physical national worship in the Old Testament.
But that wasn't the end of the story for physical temples.
No, sadly. After its tragic destruction by the Babylonians, there was Zerubbabel's temple, rebuilt after the Babylonian captivity.
Was it as grand?
Significantly less grand than Solomon's. We're told that older generations who remembered the first temple actually wept when they saw its comparatively humble foundations, recognizing the diminished glory and lost splendor.
That's poignant. And then Herod's temple, the one in Jesus' time.
Exactly. Herod's temple was an extensive renovation and expansion of Zerubbabel's temple. Grand in its own right in terms of sheer size and architectural ambition.
What?
But it also lacked the pure gold splendor of the original Solomon's temple, and, crucially, the Ark of the Covenant was gone, lost centuries before. And some would argue it was more a monument to Herod's political power and ego than to true divine presence, despite being the place Jesus taught.
Okay, so Herod's temple. Is there another physical temple mentioned?
Looking to the future, prophetic scriptures in Ezekiel describe a millennial temple, a future temple that, according to prophecy, will exist during Jesus' 1,000-year reign on earth.
A future temple.
Meticulously described, implying a renewed era of worship and God's presence on earth. But even that is not the ultimate dwelling place. It still points beyond itself.
And this is where it gets truly transformative, right? The ultimate vision.
The ultimate vision, the ultimate temple, the new Jerusalem in the new heaven and new earth.
And what does Revelation say about a temple there?
The book of Revelation tells us explicitly there will be no temple in the city.
No temple at all.
For the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple.
Wow. God is the temple.
This signifies the absolute consummation of God's desire for intimate communion with humanity. We won't need to go to a separate building, a sacred space, because we will be in God's very presence eternally, and God himself will be the sacred space. Perfect, unmediated fellowship.
That's an incredible journey. From a tent in the desert, symbolizing a portable presence, to God himself being the dwelling place. It makes me think profoundly about our own spiritual journeys.
How so?
Well, everything we build, everything we achieve, even the most glorious things, they carry that weight of initial happiness and joy. But ultimately, they are not the final eternal peace giver, are they?
No, they point beyond themselves.
As glorious as this temple is, it's not the ultimate fulfillment. Even immense blessings, like this temple, can paradoxically lead to spiritual complacency, if not continuously grounded in obedient fidelity to the divine source of those blessings.
It's a powerful lesson in distinguishing between the gift and the giver, isn't it?
Absolutely. So how do all these intricate architectural details and historical movements intersect with the broader political, leadership, and spiritual aspects of ancient Israel? It seems clear it's all deeply intertwined.
Oh, absolutely. Far more than just stone and gold. Solomon's leadership in building the temple was, in many profound ways, his ultimate political statement.
A political statement? How?
Well, by centralizing worship in Jerusalem, he wasn't just establishing a religious center, he was firmly consolidating his own power and solidifying the legitimacy and stability of the Davidic monarchy. Jerusalem became the undeniable, unchallenged heart of Israel politically, economically, and religiously. A vibrant capital.
And pulling off a project of this scale required the huge governmental infrastructure you mentioned earlier.
A truly massive and sophisticated one. Extensive organization for labor conscription, a complex system of taxation to fund it, efficient operation of vast quarries, forging strategic international trade alliances like with Hiram of Tyre.
For the cedar and craftsmen.
Exactly. He wasn't just a king, he was a sophisticated statesman and administrator overseeing an enterprise of unprecedented scale.
And the impact on the people was complex, you said.
Profound and complex. On one hand, it united the nation for a common sacred purpose. It fostered a strong sense of national identity, shared pride, collective achievement. They were all invested. But, and this is a critical nuance, it also imposed significant burdens on the populace through that conscription of labor, which we know often involved forced labor and heavy taxation. Is that delicate balance between national achievement and the cost borne by the citizens.
Attention even in divinely inspired projects.
Absolutely. Attention leaders must navigate.
Which brings us to that fascinating, maybe slightly sensitive point. The divine influence versus potential evil influence on governance, as implied here. God's influence is explicit, right, through the covenant.
Precisely. In 1 Kings 6.01-13, we see God actively influencing government through the covenant principle. He doesn't just state his presence, he tells Solomon, "If you will walk in my statutes, then I will perform my word with you, and I will dwell among the children of Israel."
So obedience leads to blessing and stability.
Clearly stated, God's favor and the longevity of the kingdom are fundamentally tied to faithful leadership and the nation's adherence to his moral order.
But if God's favor is conditional, does the text imply a vulnerability? A space where human failure opens the door to negative consequences, maybe even evil influence?
Well, while the chapter doesn't explicitly name the devil or demonic forces,
Right.
the implication for the future of the kingdom is clear and stark. The conditional nature of God's promise means that failure to uphold the covenant, which we tragically see unfold later in Solomon's own life with his foreign wives, his idolatry,
And his successors.
and certainly in the lives of his successors, leads inevitably to division, foreign oppression, and ultimately destruction.
So that's the consequence of disobedience.
It's a direct consequence of human disobedience, pride, and corruption, which, from a spiritual perspective, can be seen as the effects of evil influence working through human choices, weakening the moral fabric of governance.
So the spiritual battle plays out in choices.
In essence, yes. The fundamental choice between obedience to God's moral law, leading to life, order, stability, and self-interest, idolatry, or injustice, leading invariably to chaos, tyranny, and eventual collapse. This chapter, while focusing on the glorious beginning, definitely lays the groundwork for that future tension and the consequences of choosing poorly.
This raises such an important question for us today, even in our modern world. How do we navigate that interplay between human ambition, national unity, and, well, divine principles or universal moral laws? The story of Solomon's temple really reminds us that these spheres are constantly interacting, often with profound and long-lasting consequences for both leaders and the people they lead.
It's a timeless challenge for any society striving for enduring peace and prosperity, isn't it?
It really is. Now let's explore how Solomon's temple, this physical structure, offers such rich allegorical and typological parallels, echoing across eternity to God, to Jesus, even to us. This is where 1 Kings 6 really shifts gears, I think.
This is truly where the chapter's depth becomes most apparent, yes. The temple simply as God's house or dwelling place.
As mentioned in verses 12-13.
Right. It directly and powerfully represents God's profound, enduring desire for intimate communion with humanity.
So the building itself is an allegory for God's desire.
In a way, yes. Its intricate design, the extensive gold overlay, its overall holiness, they reflect the very beauty, purity, glory, and majesty of God himself. It was a tangible, visible symbol of an invisible, infinitely glorious God.
And the Holy of Holies, being that perfect cube, with the cherubim's wings covering the entire space, what does that specific perfection symbolize about God?
It symbolizes the fullness, the completeness, the utter perfection of God's presence. There's no corner, no dimension in that sacred space. His presence doesn't touch or fill. It speaks to his omnipresence within that consecrated area and his absolute holiness.
But the typology extends even more powerfully to Jesus Christ,
Right.
revealing God's ultimate plan.
Absolutely. Both the tabernacle and the temple were earthly dwelling places designed to contain and represent God's presence. This theme finds its supreme personal fulfillment in Jesus Christ Emmanuel, God with us.
God dwelling in a person.
Exactly. The New Testament explicitly calls Jesus' physical body the temple. John 2.19-21, he says he would rebuild this temple in 3 days.
Referring to his resurrection.
Referring to his resurrection, he is the walking, living embodiment of God's presence.
And the Holy of Holies, that most restricted access point in the Old Covenant, entered only by the high priest once a year.
With sacrificial blood.
Right. That also finds its parallel in Christ's work.
Precisely. The earthly Holy of Holies foreshadowed Christ's singular sacrificial entry into the true heavenly sanctuary, as Hebrews 9 describes it.
Making a final atonement.
Making a once-for-all atonement. And the tearing of the temple veil from top to bottom at Jesus' crucifixion.
Matthew 27.
Yes. That powerfully symbolizes the moment when full, direct access to God was granted for all believers, no longer limited by a physical barrier, an exclusive priesthood, or annual ritual. It was a cosmic opening.
Any other parallels to Jesus? What about the silent construction?
That's a fascinating one. The quiet construction process, without the sound of tools, metaphorically points to Christ's humble and perfect obedience. Fulfilling prophecy like Isaiah 53.7, where the suffering servant would not cry out or raise his voice. Quiet, perfect work.
So the temple foreshadows Jesus in amazing ways. But it also has profound parallels for the church, the community of believers, and for us as individuals today.
It absolutely does. The Apostle Paul famously calls the church the collective community of believers, the temple of God.
Where does he say that?
In 1 Corinthians 3.16, he emphasizes that God's Spirit dwells within this new living structure.
Not a building, but people.
Exactly. And he even goes further, referring to each individual Christian's body as the temple of the Holy Spirit in 1 Corinthians 6.1.
So we're not just physical beings. We're meant to be like living structures consecrated for God's presence.
That's the essence of it, the spiritualization of the temple concept.
Wow.
And just as Solomon's temple was built with finely prepared individual stones,
Cut at the quarry.
right, believers are described by Peter as living stones being built into a spiritual house. That's 1 Peter 2.5.
Living stones. I like that.
It shifts the focus from a physical building made of inert materials to a vibrant, living, spiritual reality of humanity indwelt by the Holy Spirit, forming a collective dwelling for God.
And the layout itself. The courts, holy place, most holy place. Does that have a parallel?
Many see it as a powerful metaphor for a person's spiritual journey, a progressive path toward deeper intimacy and holiness with God, moving closer to His presence.
That makes sense. A journey inward.
Absolutely. It maps out a journey of increasing proximity and revelation. And the imagery continues into the ultimate future.
How so? Back to the New Jerusalem.
Yes. The gold-paved streets and gates of pearl described in Revelation are a direct allusion to the opulence of Solomon's temple, but on a cosmic scale.
Symbolizing perfection in heaven.
Symbolizing the perfection, beauty, and absolute harmony found in heaven, ultimately with God and the Lamb as its temple. No temple needed because God's presence is total and immediate.
A full consummation.
The full consummation of God's desire for intimate communion. We won't go to a building. We will be in God's very presence eternally, fully absorbed in His glory.
What's truly fascinating here is how these ancient blueprints, these details in 1 Kings 6, just unfold prophetically, showing this clear, divinely orchestrated progression from a physical structure to a spiritual reality, culminating in eternal communion.
It's truly a story that began with God walking with humanity in a garden and ends with God Himself being our temple and our eternal dwelling place. The physical temple was, in many ways, merely a pointer to something far, far greater.
An incredible arc. As we continue this deep dive, let's really try to explore the unseen forces at play behind the scenes during the temple's construction.
Okay.
1 Kings 6 is rich in architectural detail, but it really hints at a deeper spiritual reality, doesn't it? Something beyond what's visible. What invisible guidance was Solomon working under?
It absolutely does. Firstly, we see divine blueprint and guidance as a key unseen force, although it's not explicitly detailed as a direct physical interaction in 1 Kings 6.
Right. The chapter focuses on the building.
Other crucial scriptures, like 1 Chronicles 28, reveal that King David received the detailed plans for the temple by the Spirit.
By the Spirit, so divine inspiration.
Yes. And then he passed them, along with the charge, to Solomon.
So this wasn't just Solomon's brilliant idea or human ingenuity.
No. This strongly suggests a divine blueprint and ongoing spiritual guidance from God in all the architectural and functional aspects. It implies a profound spiritual interaction that provided detailed, perfect instructions beyond mere human capacity.
God's hand guiding the process.
Meticulously guiding the entire process, ensuring the structure met His sacred pattern and purpose. It underscores that this was not merely a human endeavor, but a divinely commissioned and supernaturally guided project.
And then there's God's conditional promise to Solomon, that word of the Lord that came to him.
Yes, in verses 11-13.
That's not just a message. It represents a direct, unseen spiritual communication, doesn't it? A profound interaction.
It is, and it acts as both profound encouragement for the massive task at hand and a solemn warning for the future.
Encouragement and warning.
Yes. This unseen interaction is crucial because it signifies that divine favor and God's active presence are not automatic, not guaranteed by the building itself.
Contingent on faithfulness.
Contingent on human faithfulness. The temple itself, as magnificent as it was, effectively became a spiritual test of Solomon's fidelity. An unseen spiritual power would either establish or divide the kingdom based on his moral choices and the nation's obedience to God's covenant. God was actively involved, monitoring and responding.
And let's revisit that remarkable detail about the silence during construction. No hammer, axe, iron tool heard on site. Beyond the practical, there's a powerful spiritual symbolism there, too.
Oh, definitely. More than just good planning, there is a profound spiritual message.
What is it?
This quietness suggests that God's most significant work is often accomplished without clamor, without the noise of human striving or interference. It emphasizes a divine, serene process rather than a noisy, human-driven one.
A spiritual orderliness.
Exactly. It implies a spiritual order where everything is perfectly aligned and prepared beforehand, a testament to divine foresight, meticulous organization, and the inherent sacredness of the work.
And it may be a lesson for personal growth.
On a deeper spiritual level, yes. It can be understood as the internal, often unseen work God does in individuals shaping, purifying, transforming them through quiet discipline, self-reflection, spiritual refinement, before they are placed into their designated, perhaps more public roles within his spiritual kingdom. The true building happens in the quiet.
So even in an architectural detail, we see this cosmic drama playing out. Divine wisdom, human preparation. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the very construction of the temple itself could be seen as a significant moment in a broader spiritual battleground.
Absolutely. Think about it. The construction of the temple was an unequivocal declaration of Yahweh's supremacy.
A statement to the surrounding nations.
A direct and visible challenge to the pagan gods worshipped by surrounding nations. From a spiritual perspective, this monumental act of reverence was a powerful statement of faith and loyalty to the one true God,
which would provoke a reaction.
Such a declaration would inevitably invoke unseen spiritual opposition from forces aligned against God's kingdom, or, conversely, profound blessing and protection as a direct consequence of Solomon's actions and the nation's faithfulness.
And the temptation for Solomon himself.
Always lurking. The temptation for Solomon to become prideful or disobedient, which, as we know, tragically unfolded later in his life, also lurked in the background, representing a potential evil influence to corrupt the good intention.
Turning the temple into something else.
Turning building for God into a tool for self-glorification, power, or even idolatry. This entire endeavor was a spiritual act of worship, an offering of the nation's absolute best, signifying that the invisible God was worthy of ultimate visible glory, even as unseen forces contended for the allegiance of Israel. It was a spiritual battlefield for the heart of a nation.
Wow, that adds another whole layer to just reading about beams and gold. So with all this incredible detail, profound meaning, and unseen spiritual drama packed into just one chapter, what kind of ancient wisdom can we really glean for our modern living? How does building Solomon's temple thousands of years ago impact us today? Spiritually, mentally, psychologically, theologically, socially?
Well, the spiritual and theological analysis is perhaps the most direct and enduring. That core principle from 1 Kings 6 remains profoundly relevant. God's presence is conditional upon obedience.
Good if, then.
That if, then. It applies directly to modern life, reminding us that our dwelling place for God, our personal lives, our minds, our families, our churches, our communities must be structured by divine commandments and righteous living.
So it's not just about buildings.
No. It's a powerful reminder that a beautiful church building, elaborate rituals, or outward piety means little without an obedient heart and a life aligned with God's will. We are called to be living, walking temples of the Holy Spirit.
Carrying God's presence everywhere.
Carrying God's presence into every aspect of our lives, not just confining him to specific structures or times. And the temple underscores that whole incarnation theology, God dwelling with us supremely in Jesus, moving us from a temporary, ritual-based system to intimate, spirit-filled worship and direct access.
That concept of quiet preparation for the stones cut at the quarry. That offers a powerful mental and psychological metaphor for us too, doesn't it? especially today.
Indeed. It's a profound challenge to our modern pace of life, our culture of noise and performance.
How so?
It suggests that true preparation for serving God, or for becoming a temple in our own character, happens privately, away from the public eye, through consistent discipline, deep self-reflection, and the often slow cutting away of impurities and rough edges in our character.
So the silence is about intentionality.
Reverence, intentionality, inner cultivation, a stark contrast to a world often obsessed with noise, constant performance, instant gratification, and the 7-year project itself.
Teaches patience.
Powerfully inspires patience and perseverance in pursuing truly long-term goals, whether personal development, professional achievements, or spiritual growth. Even the winding stairs within the temple connecting its levels,
Or up them.
they can suggest a gradual, patient spiritual journey rather than an immediate, effortless leap to enlightenment, implying that true progress often comes step by step.
And from a social perspective, that collective endeavor involving thousands of Israelites, lessons there for building communities today.
It absolutely highlights the immense power of shared purpose and collective endeavor in a society.
The power of unity.
Yes. This can inspire modern community projects and reminds us of the critical importance of cooperation, shared vision, and unified effort for achieving monumental, worthwhile goals. However,
The warning side again.
the narrative also implicitly warns against the corruption of power, the temptation for leaders to misuse people and resources, forgetting the covenant of justice and righteousness.
Like the conscription of taxes.
Exactly. The conscription of labor, the forced taxation, while perhaps seen as necessary for the project, also represented a significant burden and potential for exploitation. It's a testament to the double-edged nature of power and ambition, even in achieving something great.
A reminder for leaders in any era.
And it shows that while the temple certainly fostered national unity, identity, pride,
It also contained a danger.
it also contained the inherent potential for Israel to place their ultimate trust in the building itself rather than in the God within it.
Ah, the idol versus the divine again?
Precisely.
Right.
This could, and later did, lead to spiritual arrogance, misplaced confidence, or dangerous complacency. A pitfall all societies and individuals face when immense blessings, material wealth, national prestige, even spiritual gifts become an end in themselves, rather than a means to greater faithfulness and humble service to the giver.
That is a perennial human struggle. What truly stands out to you about how a project of such immense beauty and divine inspiration could, paradoxically, contain the seeds of both profound good and potential for bad, spiritually, socially, echoing even today?
I think it's that very tension. That something meant to bring people closer to God could also become the thing that obstructs that relationship, if not handled with humility and constant reference back to the covenant giver. The potential for the gift to overshadow the giver is always there.
It's a profound thought. Such magnificence leading to both reverence and potential downfall.
Yeah.
As we bring this deep dive into 1 Kings chapter 6 to a close, it's just abundantly clear that what looks like an architectural report is so much more.
So much more.
It's a narrative packed with layers, spiritual, political, personal significance. So what does this all really mean for us today?
It means, I think, that 1 Kings chapter 6 is far more than a building report. It's a multi-layered story of faith, obedience, divine presence. It serves as a powerful allegory, really, for both ancient Israel and for modern believers. It meticulously details the physical manifestation of God's desire to dwell among his people, but always with that crucial caveat. His presence is conditional upon their faithfulness to his covenant. It reveals how unseen spiritual realities profoundly shaped the visible world.
And this foundational narrative gives us so much to reflect on. The planning, the materials, the silence, the sheer opulence, that conditional promise. It all weaves together this tapestry of profound, timeless meaning.
It really does.
It challenges us to look beyond the surface of things, doesn't it?
It does. It's a vivid reminder that while magnificent structures and outward expressions of faith can be inspiring, awe-inducing, unifying,
Right.
the true heart of the matter is always the internal spiritual condition of individuals and communities. And that progression we talked about, tabernacle to temple to Christ to the New Jerusalem, shows God's consistent desire for deeper, more intimate communion.
Moving from external ritual to internal transformation.
Exactly. From a temporary physical dwelling to a spiritual reality to finally being the dwelling place himself. It's a journey towards ultimate intimacy.
And this leaves us with maybe a provocative thought for you, the listener. The temple was this physical manifestation of God's desire to dwell among his people. But it was also, as we've seen, a continuous, profound test of their fidelity and spiritual maturity.
Mm-hmm. A constant challenge.
So how do we, in our own lives, ensure that the temples we are building, our bodies, our characters, our families, our communities, our aspirations, how do we ensure they remain aligned with the divine blueprint?
That's the question.
How do we ensure that we don't fall prey to the allure of outward splendor and worldly success over inward obedience and genuine humility, especially when God blesses us abundantly?
It's easy to get caught up in the blessings.
What kind of building are you constructing in your own life for God's presence? And maybe just as importantly, are you listening for the silent work, the preparation happening in the quiet?
Something truly worth reflecting on long after this deep dive.